Thank you very much. And I think if, as you say, there is a great responsibility on the UK, there is equally a responsibility of people in this room and those like us across Britain to put the maximum pressure we can on our government and all our political parties to shift position and to support the Palestine people. I have no doubt whatsoever that the Palestinians are not going to give up their fight one way or another. I've personally been involved in solidarity activities for almost 30 years. There is no sign of anyone giving up. So thank you very much for those remarks. And I'm now going to open it up to the audience to ask questions and, if necessary, make short contributions. Okay, you, sir.
Could you say a few words about the possible future of the Arab Peace Initiative? Because that's been going on 16 years now, and there's so little recognition that even exists outside people who are familiar with the topic.
Okay, I'll take 2 or 3 questions and then ask you to come back, if that's okay. Lady here.
I mean, at the moment, parliamentary politics in Britain is in unprecedented crisis, and it looks as though we may well have a general election coming very soon, or at least that is a possibility. I'm wondering how you see the role of the UK that you mentioned just now, whether you feel that would change with the election of a Labour government led by Jeremy Corbyn. For instance, Corbyn has stated that he, as Prime Minister, will recognise the Palestinian state.
Thanks. And a final question before I ask to come back. Yeah.
Your Excellency, I just wonder whether you can comment. I read in the Financial Times about 3 years ago that the Foreign Office has removed the word international from their briefings. In international law, they just put law instead. They've taken the word international out, which I find very concerning. That was flagged out actually in the Financial Times. I'm just wondering, I know at the moment the UK looks better because we have a Trump administration. I don't be quite honest. I think you've seen this leaflet. I mean, the UK has always been a passenger, to be quite honest with you. You know, I mean, at the end of the day, they might have a more moderate language. They might have a, you know, I personally wouldn't bank on a better, and I'm sure you don't bank either on the Arab regimes, which are far more interested in suppressing their own people than standing up to America. I'm pretty sure you know that. I mean, you know, with the regime in Egypt, in Saudi Arabia, or Jordan, or all those places, you know, they're far more interested in suppressing their local population than they are in supporting the Palestinians.
Okay, thanks. We'll take a response and then I'll turn to this side of the audience for a few more questions.
Maybe for a change, I'll stand this time. Is this working? Yes. So, the question about the Arab Peace Initiative. You know, the Arab Peace Initiative was formulated and presented by then Prince Abdullah, who became King Abdullah, in 2002, primarily for Israel's sake, because Israel was arguing that should you present us with a package, should you promise us that resolving the Palestinian-Israeli issue would lead to normalization in the Arab world and would lead to having you know, bridges and relations and recognition by the Arab world of the state of Israel, it will be the major incentive for us. And it will be a selling point for the politicians of Israel to sell to their public, hence the Arab Peace Initiative. Regrettably, Israel never picked it. And it has opposed it all along, rejected it all along. Now Netanyahu is arguing the other way. He's saying, oh no, this is not about getting promise of a recognition by all Arab states and Muslim states. Actually, the Arab Initiative was endorsed by the Islamic State, so you have 57 countries who would immediately fly the Israeli flag in their capitals should a state of Palestine emerge, should conflict end, should the peace process be concluded. Now Netanyahu is arguing publicly to his people that actually he can do all that without resolving the Palestinian issue. That's the bottom line. The outside-in approach. What does the outside-in approach mean? The outside-in approach means let's normalize first, and then we will see what the Palestinians do. I mean, we know the. I am not going to explain to you why I believe what I'm going to tell you, because it's another 6 hours. But it's not going to happen. It's not going to happen without fulfilling people's rights, without making sure that you end the illegal actions you do every day. Only 2 days ago, they constructed the apartheid wall in the heart of the West Bank for Jewish settler only. Only 2 days ago, and they will keep constructing such roads. And while they were successful in the PR side of blaring the discussion about military occupation, who occupied who first? Was it the Romans who came there first, or whoever? But they will not be argued the case about issues of discrimination, segregation, that are institutionalized now in the Israeli Knesset. If you have followed a few months ago the nation-state law, that specifically, the first sentence says, there shall not be any other right of self-determination except to Jews. I mean, what is this? Judaism is absolutely innocent of this. It's a political discourse, an ideology. Nonetheless, why I believe it's not going to happen is a long discussion. But Israel has made agreements, peace agreements with Egypt 30 years ago. And still that agreement is only between the two leaders, not between the people. The people will only extend hands and normalize relations when they see their brothers and sisters having achieved the very basic rights enjoyed by all other nations. There are no other formula around. So regrettably, the Arab Peace Initiative of 2002 was a great opportunity missed by Israel. And there is no way Israel can go around this. There is no way. They can go and visit Arab countries, see that one leader for half an hour and then fly back. But then what? Then what? The future we meant by the Arab Peace Initiative was a future where they go see that one leader, but then they go to the streets and have meals and encounter people and live with people and trade with people and really become an integral part of our region. I mean Israel. But Israel has to make some choices. What is more important to Israel? Occupying, colonizing the West Bank and besieging Gaza, or being a democracy? The Dutch democracy. The Dutch democracy. Colonizing the West Bank or having a normal relationship with 57 Islamic countries. The 57 Islamic countries in Arab countries. For the sake of the colonial exercise, the illegal colonial exercise in the West Bank. UK elections allow me to not engage in that matter, my friend. I wouldn't. But I have this to say. I was living in this country, beautiful country, for many years of my life. And I know, and we should work towards that Palestine is a cross-party issue. It is. And the understanding of the situation is not just Labour. It should be Labour, Liberal Democrats, Scottish National Party, Conservatives. It must be. And in fact, if you look at it, you will find that all these parties, including the Conservatives, agree on a state of Palestine ending the occupation. They agree. The question is of enforcement and implementation. Enforcement and implementation. We welcome Jeremy Corbyn's pledge to recognize. We believe that's a very tangible, concrete. And we hope that the British government is going to do it before him. So there's an opportunity, as we say. But we believe is what he has promised is the right concrete rather than hollow words. concrete step, not towards being pro-Palestine. Let me be very clear. I believe people like Corbyn are pro-peace. They are not anti. They are pro a different future for both people. And they are looking for that concrete step towards that conclusion. The FCO and taking away, I haven't seen that. I really didn't see the FCO taking international law out. In fact, I have encountered the Foreign Secretary myself, Jeremy Hunt, the first day of my arrival here, and the first thing I heard from him is the UK foreign policy, if could be summarized in one phrase, it will be international order. That's what I heard. And I understand why he would be saying stuff like that, because in the era of Trump, what else? I mean, what else? So I didn't see the FT report, and I doubt the UK at least now, I don't know what will happen in the future, would actually let go of its policy of being part of an international order that makes sense and keeps universal values. I mean, with all the small little political disagreements between parties here, this is about the national strategic interests of the UK. Maybe there were some flirtations of the idea of being closer to the US in the scenario of being out of the EU, but I don't think Trump allows anybody to be closer to the US at this point in time. Thank you.
Thanks. I'll take a couple more very quick contributions and a response before we move on. Gentleman in the front.
I wonder if you could say a word or two about Palestine and the European Union. One thing I do understand is that Israel is a kind of member, extraordinary, I discovered this in the last year, of the European Union, associate member or something like this, which has implications for this country, if nothing else. But at least I don't know the nature of this relationship and whether there is or could or should be such a relationship with the state of Palestine.
Okay. And Walter, finally.
Would you agree that at the moment the problem for British foreign policy is the British foreign policy not only on the nuclear issue, not only on the Palestinian issue, but on all issues, fellow travels with the United States, and that the special relationship, has lasted for some time. There's now a move from the Labour Party to modify it and to end it. And if that happens, would you agree that in that case you would get a constructive policy towards Palestine? And I think the last Labour Party conference proved it.
Okay, I'm sorry we're going to have to move on. So can I ask the ambassadors to come back briefly?
Well, my friend, about the EU and the issue of Palestine and Israel being an associate member that close to the EU, yes, and was the relationship and the situation with the EU in the last 20 years or so, given that Oslo was a European agreement, funded primarily by the EU, sponsored by the EU, was it the most healthy relationship between the Palestinians and the EU? No, it could have been much better. The EU could have enforced the issue of differentiation, i.e. differentiating between Israel and Israel's expansion much better. They couldn't do so. The EU could have enforced the EU-Israel Association Agreement through that differentiation very clearly, that you cannot enjoy a special relationship without making sure that you respect our agreement that we signed. The EU signed agreements with Israel. And in the agreement, it clearly states that Israel should not jeopardize the EU policy for a two-state solution, i.e. stopping the settlements and whatever. But the EU that we knew and we have so much to desire about in terms of the political actions is even in a different situation now. And the current Israeli Prime Minister is making alliances with the authoritarian regimes, the far-right wing elements of the EU. This is not a secret. Next month, there will be a summit in the occupied Jerusalem. And it will be led by Benjamin Netanyahu. And who are the others? Hungary, Poland, Czech Republic, and who is the fourth? Slovenia. If you look at the regimes there and why they are there, if you saw the Israeli flags flying behind wherever he goes, the new elect Brazilian president, Bolsonaro, what's his name?
Bolsonaro.
Bolsonaro, sorry. Bolsonaro. Bolsonaro. I mean, Israel, this Netanyahu has turned Israel into the the address of authoritarianism, anti-liberalism, racism, phobias. And, frankly, this worries me. It's not just, it worries me for the fate of Israel itself, not only for our fate. This is the Europe that we need to focus on. And this is the exportation, not only of occupation from Israel to Europe, but the exportation of ideology. That we should be very cautious about and aware of, and try to find a solution. In the end, my friend, there are 6.5 million Israeli Jews, and there are 6.5 million Palestinian Christian and Muslims in the Holy Land. In the end, no one in his or her sanity would imagine any scenario whereby we don't live, all of us, in that peace. No one. And in my opinion, there is no solution except collective rights. The idea of subduing people is not going to do it. It's not going to happen. Even if my generation, relatively young I am, cannot do it, there will be other generations to pick up the flame. The question is not about just a solution. The question is the kind of the solution and the kind of the states and the systems we are creating. That is the question. And I am afraid, even if we establish the best states now, with such a Netanyahu and such where we're going, with the laws in the Knesset, and with this nurturing international far-right movement worldwide, we need to pause and actually even worry about the Israeli people themselves. Last, again, about labor, Walter, my friend, about labor, and I'm a diplomat. And allow me to be a diplomat for one, even though sometimes I fail to be a diplomat. But I will say it as I believe in it. Of course, labor is way more active in terms of its understanding and its willingness to act on behalf of peace in the Middle East. Because the base of labor is a base that is way more connected, knowledgeable. The trade unions, all the civil society organizations, people have been there thousands upon thousands, and seeing is believing. When they come back, they know what they're talking about. And this has been an evolution process of over 30 years. This is not just the last 5 years, by the way. So the last party conference was the peak of a long process. And with all due respect to my good friend Jeremy Corbyn, he just happened to be the leader of the party when the party was going there anyway. So let's be clear about that. Of course, there are other elements. But the party as a Labour has been, in a way, much more clear about its destination, its policy formulation on Palestine, and we followed the resolutions of the party conference. However, again, Palestine, it's in the interest of us and of all of our supporters that Palestine is not a one-party issue. Is that I want to re-stress that. You know what's the biggest damage Netanyahu has inflicted on the state of Israel over the last 5 years? Is making Israel a partisan issue in America. Israel no longer has the democratic support it used to enjoy, thanks to his vulgarness, i.e. Netanyahu's vulgarness. So we don't want to emulate that only Labour. No. Is it in the national interest of the UK to have a solution in the Middle East? Not of Labour. And I believe it is. Because Israel-Palestine, the Middle East, is at the shores of Europe, not America. You are the first to be affected. And there are other reasons why we believe it is in the strategic interest of the UK, given the past and the responsibilities, and given the future and the UK's ability to be a bridge in that region again. So, while we celebrate Labour's policy, we would want to work with Labour, with Conservatives, with all the parties to make sure that this remains a UK issue. Thank you.
Thank you very much.